The rationale that the Supreme Court is using behind presidents need immunity is that they need to be bold and not have to watch over their shoulders, having the fear that after they leave office, they will be prosecuted. Let's stop there for a minute. There has been 46 presidents in the United States. That has never been an issue. But also, if you believe in a constitutional democracy and the rule of law, it is okay if the other president tries to persecute the former president. I don't say they should, but they never really have. But it's okay if they could. Because the fact of the matter is, if you believe in the laws of the land that we all have to follow, and then if that president does a frivolous attack on the previous presidency, it is clear that ultimately, like all of us who have to go face it in court, he or she would face it in court and it would be resolved. So it is bunk what the 6 Supreme Court justices are saying. But let me tell you a portion of that ruling that is even worse. It says that, by the way, the president on his personal stuff, even when in office, he can be tried. He can be tried on those issues. But the kicker is none of the things that he did under his official act, he can't. So if the evidence that we have has a genesis in acts that are considered official, then none of that can be used to prove the case. This is a Supreme Court capitulation to the current state of a failed former president and how to save said failed former president. Now, the question has to be, where does that take us going forward? It really means going forward that it is still in the hands of we, the people. I want you guys to get this here. It's in the hands of we, the people. But more importantly, if we are to maintain a democracy, we, the people, need to be educated, not by MSNBC, not by Fox News, not by any of these things, but go out and be educated and also use your common sense. Do you want to have a leader who has no checks and balances? I've stated for decades now that we are not a democracy. Some like to call us, we're not a democracy, we're a republic. We're a representative democracy. We are not even a representative democracy. We have never been. But it has worked to some extent because most of us were honorable. It had worked for most extent because most of us did the right thing. During the tribulations of this country, even as we had the most heinous acts in this country from its inception, whether that be slavery, whether that be genocide, whether that be any one of what the things we did commit, the internment of the Japanese, we have done some evil, bad things as a society. But when we did it, it was under the shadow of law. So yes, we had evil laws before, and we have corrected said evil laws, but it was done under a control system that no one really went rogue. When Andrew Jackson created that evil president, created the Trail of Tears, when we went in the Black Mountains or whatever the hell that is called, and went against all the treaties that we went by, there was always a way that we came back into law because there was that, in fact, law. There was a time the Supreme Court meant something. And this is not a liberal, this is not a right wing, this is not a conservative issue. This is a corruption issue. We have a corrupted Supreme Court, a Supreme Court that was placed there by the minority of the population of the United States, an uninformed population of the United States. That's what we have as our Supreme Court. Again, the justices on the Supreme Court, the people who made the transition to the majority, are there from less than half of the population. Again, I repeat, it is in your hands. It is incumbent on you to be educated. It is incumbent on you to be real. It is incumbent on you to understand that when you give unlimited power to anybody, any group, or whatever, ultimately it will come back and bite you. Can Joe Biden get Navy SEAL 6 and take out his main competitor right now? He could. And based on what the Supreme Court said, he couldn't be tried for it. As Sotomayor said, I want to read this portion of, I don't even need to go to Jackson here, but to Sotomayor. And it goes like this. In her dissent against the U.S. Supreme Court ruling Monday, liberal Justice Sonia Sotomayor, and I don't know why they call her a liberal. She's not a liberal. I mean, she follow her rulings relative to corporations, etc. She's a good person, but she's not the progressives that I would love to see on the Supreme Court, but she's there. Order the Navy SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival? Immune, wrote Sotomayor. Organizes a military coup to hold on to power? Immune. Takes a bribe in exchange for a pardon? Immune, 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 immune. This is not a liberal or conservative thing. This is not a progressive or conservative thing. This is a Supreme Court that is bought. And this is a Supreme Court that in effect gives the president ultimate authority over anything. Now the executive can be used. Let's give a perfect scenario here. The executive can be bribed by a major corporation to create an executive order to do something. Right now, we have a lot of people going to the Supreme Court every time the president passes an executive order. And this is going around Congress. I want to let people understand how serious this is. This is an executive order. Now they have the right, when the executive order is challenged as unconstitutional, they can go ahead and say, okay, let's take it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court then rules. Again, it's the imperial president. Nah, it's constitutional. And we're stuck. I mentioned about how Republicans understood that their policies could not garner the support of most Americans. And in so doing, what they had to do is find a legal way within the Constitution to execute the unpopular, the unwise, their evil deeds. And the way to do that is using the judiciary. The judiciary and the format of the judiciary was the biggest mistake made by the founders. For those who think the founders were infallible, it's not infallible when what occurred could occur. We have depended on people who were honorable to run this country. We never thought about what happens when the electorate was snuzzled, when the electorate was fooled into believing that charlatans were actually able, capable, should run a country. The second major flaw has to do with 2 senators per state, which completely blows any form of true democracy. Those were flaws in the Constitution, and anybody wants to be honest about democracy. I don't care what the history tells you back then about state rights versus federal rights. It means nothing today. It means nothing today with the way we transition state by state. Nothing. It's an archaic system that allows that you have to have a supermajority of people being knowledgeable to prevent this country from going under. And I tell you what, Richard Haas said today, and this is not a progressive, this is not conservative, this is just a guy who loves the country, who has served the country. Richard Haas is. He told every country in the world, prepare for a new America. Prepare for a new America, an America now that you cannot depend on. America now that has lost its way, an America now that is losing its values. And the only salvation is what has always been the salvation, and that is you. But it means an educated you, an educated you. It's high time to stop the BS. It's all high time to stop. Oh, but look at what the Trump, this Trump. It goes beyond Trump now because of this ruling. It goes way beyond Trump.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.